Hey guys, this is Kurt, and man, thank you so much. If you are already in the Power Sports Marine Service Network, the Facebook fan page, the page that's in there for you guys, uh, thanks for joining that, and thanks for being willing to be a part of that. I wanted to do a Facebook Live this morning, but apparently I'm having some issues here with getting the Facebook Live interface to actually work today. I've used it on a bunch of other pages and platforms, but for some reason today we're having an issue, and that speaks a lot to the amount of change that we are in the process of going through right now as a country, as a people, as everything. And I ran kind of a live meetup yesterday. You guys were invited to come to that. We did have a handful of people join, and thanks to the guys that signed into that. But there were a lot of things that came out of that meeting, and I wanted to kind of give you a summary or share with you kind of what my feelings are and what I think may be happening for us, which may be good things. I'm super invested in power sports and marine after sales divisions, and super invested in the idea that sales moving forward in our industries, even though the marine industry is super strong on retail right now, I believe that the strength, the resiliency of our industry really falls on the shoulders of you guys. Um, you can't send people home for a month, students home for a month. Some people are actually ending their school years early because of this coronavirus outbreak. And when I start looking at that and thinking about the repercussions of these activities, and I start thinking to myself, how does this play in the long game? Well, in the long game, and based on the feedback I got in yesterday's live meetup, my belief of the short game apparently is already coming true. And that was, they're talking about social distancing, and they're talking about more like a solo activity, right? I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this in a way that makes the most amount of sense. But I think of things like from a solo activity. So motorcycling, social distancing, riding your mountain bike, social distancing, you know, putting, your wife and kids on a boat and heading out on a lake, social distancing, camping, hiking. These types of things are freedoms that are newly bestowed upon people that had a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, kids that had a school schedule, things like that, and now they've got this ability to go and do some of these things. So for years now in the power sports industry, the feeling has been, well, young people don't want to ride. Well, young people do want to ride, right? I think we are fooling ourselves if we think that the excitement of getting on a motorcycle and turning the throttle, that's gone, that for some reason people don't like that anymore. That's ridiculous. But I would see some strength in the argument that it could be interpreted as a selfish activity, right? I'm going to hop on my motorcycle and disappear for 3 or 4 hours, and this leash that we have voluntarily put in our pockets, can't reach me unless I've got a Bluetooth helmet, right? And I'm removed and I'm separated and I'm disconnected from the network and I'm gone, just enjoying myself, some peace and solidarity for a half hour. There's a certain selfishness to that, and when that selfishness comes at a cost of $15,000 to $20,000, for a lot of the bikes that are on the market today, they start thinking, well, what can I do with my family? I'll get a UTV, I'll get a trailer, I'll do this, I'll do that. Well, before they know it, they've got $170,000 wrapped up in a UTV package with trailers and all kinds of stuff, right? So, um, long story short, in my gut, I thought our industry is actually going to see an increase. We're actually going to, we're going to go through this, what we see as a societal speed bump with this coronavirus thing, but we're going to see a slight increase. We're going to see, people are going to say, oh crap, I got to get my bike tuned up. I got to get it tuned up. Hey, it's the beginning of the season. Hey, you know what? It's still cold outside, but I could put on a jacket and go for a ride real quick. And these opportunities are going to pop up, right? And so I think our service departments are going to see a slight increase in the amount of demand that comes in. And now it's like, how do you now react to that demand? How do you fulfill the need of the public that has this, sudden increase in desire to service their product and get out and use it? And so that's one thing. I think that's one thing we can look forward to. I've overheard a couple of stories where someone had said, hey man, I've always wanted to get a scrambler and now I'm just going to go get a scrambler. Right. And that's an affordable machine. That's an affordable machine where, you know, it's not so guilt ridden to go and get that. Right. Or, you know, the Royal Enfield is a great example of that. Right. For $6,000, you can get a brand new 650 and go out and ride the dang thing. So, um, that thinking about how this crisis could actually impact our industry in a positive way. Um, I think about things that, and I took a couple of notes here before I got on, but I think about things that are important for service writers and service managers. Okay, if your business stays open, your business needs a leader, and if you're at the service desk, that's you. I've taught this in training sessions for years and years, but you know, you cannot be at that desk and not show a sense of confidence. You have to be a leader. You're now more than ever, your shop needs you to be the leader for its shop, right? So you need to, you know, you're responsible for generating the work. You're responsible for communicating the work. You're responsible for customer communication, revenue generation, all of that stuff. And you really need to take control of that. And I know that I say that some of you might think, well, I'm preaching to the choir, but as I visit dealers and I look at things, you know, I can tell you that sometimes there's a sense of actual leadership that's missing at that counter. And, you know, if that's you, I'm not asking you to raise your hand or anything, but just be cognizant that there are things you can do to work on your sense of leadership. There are, I mean, for instance, this afternoon at 3 o'clock, I'm going to do a live meetup on John Maxwell's leadership book, right? How to deal with sudden change and how to plan for change and how to take advantage of change, right? So those are things that, you know, you can find resources for. I'm a big fan of John Maxwell personally, but you could read some Covey books. You could, you know, jump on and do some YouTube video search, whatever, right? But find a way to build your leadership connection. And connection is the next thing, right? Community and connectivity. If your business remains open, does your community know that you're open? How are you reaching out to people and letting them know that you're available for business? A lot of people are making an assumption that non-essential services are going to be closed. And like, if you read the news or if you're watching TV, it'll say, oh, non-essential services, you know, bars and restaurants are going to be closed. This is going to be closed. That's going to be closed. Let's face facts. I recognize that not every business is going to shut down. And so if your business stays open, how are you going to leverage that information with the public? And you know, I'm not asking you to be a human petri dish. I'm not asking you to, you know, have everybody come in and cough on you and lick your arm. But if you're going to stay open, how are you going to let people know that you're there? And think about it. A lot of the jurisdictions that I see on the news, they all say something different. You know, groups of 1,000 or more, groups of 500 or more, groups of 250 or more. In my area here in Southern California, they've actually said, hey, if you have a group of more than 25 people, you know, that's considered an at-risk group. So you probably want to have groups of less than 25 people. And so, but I think about a dealership. You know, a dealership includes the theories of social distancing because you're not really close to people, right? In proximity. If you keep your distance from people at work and you keep your hardened surfaces wiped down and you keep some sanitizer and some keep some Lysol around, you know, and clean things up, you know, keep a sterile work environment, wash your hands, you know, be careful about making physical contact with people. But if your business is open, you got to let people know that you're open. You got to find, you know, I don't care if it's social media, Facebook, Twitter, phone calls. You pick up the phone and call, you know, your top 20 or 30 customers and just be like, hey, just to let you know, man, we're open. If you want to come in, hang out, look at some new product, or, you know, show a movie, you know, say, hey, you know, we don't want to fill the house full of, you know, people, but, you know, we're going to have the last race up on the screen, or we're going to do whatever, you know, and maybe form some kind of community or connection. I'm real big on Zoom conferences. So I work from home a lot, and I'll do consulting with dealerships on Zoom conferences. And that virtual communication, but being able to see each other, I think holds a lot of value. And so there are options that you can do like that. So like if your company has Zoom, great. You know, you could send your customers a Zoom invite. They could jump on the computer and you can just talk to them, find out what they want, what they need. You know, this would be a great time if people are feeling sequestered and they don't want to come down to the dealership. You know, leverage that shop truck you got and start doing some pickups and deliveries, man. Start, hey, you know what, the season's coming. You know, if you're in one of these seasonal areas, I'm in Southern California, so we can ride all year round. But if you're like in a seasonal area and weather's starting to break, pick up the phone and say, hey, just to let you know, we're still open. You know, we've got a shop truck available. We can come out and get your bike, get your scooter, get your whatever. And, you know, we can get you service now and get you ready for when the weather breaks, or when this thing's over and you want to go out riding, you know, your bike will be ready for you. I mean, there are some options. So I just, you know, again, think about leadership, community, connection. And, you know, you're in the catbird seat for this thing, man. If you're a service writer, service manager at a dealership, you are in the catbird seat for this thing. You have more connection with the community based on the services you provide than the sales department does, right? They sell the unit, but then you take care of that relationship for the rest of the ownership, right? So you're the person that has the ability to do these outreaches. You know, there's tools out there. I just mentioned the Zoom and the Facebook Lives and stuff like that. But if you could jump out there and I know some people aren't comfortable with this, but jump out there and communicate with folks, man, that would be great. Remember, every time that there is a disruption, every time that there's a major shift or change, the other side of that equal sign, right, is opportunity. So anytime there's a major change, anytime there is, you know, that's why I'm doing the leadership book right now. I'm doing leadership with people on a voluntary basis, because adjusting to change and forecasting change and moving with change is something that makes you a strength player, right? And so think about this, man. I mean, it is a paradigm shift in the way that people are thinking about things. I'm not an expert on infectious diseases, but when I read what the outcome of this could be, or when I read what the outcome of this is compared to the flu, it seems that the flu is more dangerous than the coronavirus, right? And so I'm like, either there's something they're not telling us, right? Like it comes with sterility or something like that. There's either something they're not telling us, and that's what's causing some of this, you know, panicky situation, or this is the new paradigm shift, and this is the way that we're going to deal with things as they arise. And every couple of years, when something else pops up, we're going to lock down the world. And if you are in a service industry like you are, you know, you got to have a way to deal with this and a way to optimize these obstacles, which can become opportunities moving forward. So again, remember, disruption can equal opportunity. It's just, you know, how far are you ahead of this curve, and how are you at adapting to change, and how creative can you be at meeting your customers' needs over your competition down the street. And I think that that's a huge way to look at this. If there's a big financial disruption, let's say it goes more than 2-3 weeks, let's say it goes 3 months and things are closed and people aren't working, but people need some kind of transportation, or they need some kind of an output or something. I think at that point, you might see sales negatively affected. And if our dealerships suffer a big hit on unit sales, you know, dealer owners, dealer principals, obviously the OEM providers, they put an awful lot of weight on the sales of new units. And, you know, from an OEM perspective, it's the wholesaling of those units to your dealerships. You're in service, you're in after sales. You know, this is your moment to shine. This is where you can pick up the slack, and you can hold the banner high and run with it for your dealership on behalf of your dealership, and try and save some of the revenue that your shop can make. If sales are negatively impacted, you have to make up the difference, because think about it this way. I mean, if sales is negatively impacted and you don't rise to the occasion to fill in that gap, that vacuum, what happens to your dealership, right? There's only so much time and money to go around. So think about that for a second. Like you got to be able to figure out how you're going to pick up that slack. And you might be watching this and saying, oh God, Kurt, shut up. Don't be a panic. Don't try and scare us. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to be level-headed, and I'm trying to think in terms of opportunities. So yesterday's call, I wanted to talk about some of yesterday's call. I was asking people that had signed into the call, I said, if there was training that, you know, I own Manana No Mas, right? So I have a service writer, service manager training portal on the internet. So I'm already virtual, and I do support calls on Zoom. So we get face-to-face in real time, and we have conversations on Zoom, and we do some consulting at distance. And I said, if I was going to make content to train service writers or improve the content? What are some things that, you would like to see incorporated into that? And it was interesting because the answers weren't exactly what I expected. And that's good, right? It's good if something's different, because then it helps me prepare a little better. But I had expected things like, how to use Lightspeed better, how to use Service Manager Pro more effectively to do quotes and things like that, or off-brand quotations. And what I got was communication, accountability, project planning, dispatching, and not dispatching. I should be more clear about that. Dispatching so that the technician actually knows what he's supposed to do, which comes down to communication on the ticket. And so it struck me, that information's already in the learning management system that's on Manana No Mas. So I feel really good that the content is already there, right? But then what that means is I need to figure out a way that I'm going to share that with as many dealerships as possible and make people know that it's available. So I've got it up on another screen, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not, but let me go ahead and share this screen that I have. Do it right here. So this is what it looks like when someone signs into the learning site, and I'm signed in as a student now, and I can go right to, my dashboard. And in my dashboard, this thing will, I get the spinning wheel of death up here with everyone's home in the neighborhood. So the internet's slowing down a little bit, but we can go right here to the dashboard, and this will show me what courses I'm signed up for. I can click here and it'll show me the rest of the courses I'm signed up for. This particular account is signed up for the fixed operations membership. And I can go right in here and I can say, okay, how can I use the phone better as a tool for sales? How can I embrace the process and be more serious about, knuckling down on things I need to get done? Power sports fixed operations. I mean, when you get into here, the power sports fixed operations course that I have in here is about accountability, communication, proper dispatching, increasing efficiency and effectiveness through dispatch processes. I've basically got it split into sections, right? I've got the soft skills, which deal with communication. I've got lessons in shop function, right? So how to take care of active delivery, the invoice process, service follow-up, diagnosis and estimation, how you should work with that. I've got some information in here on internal branding that I feel is important for a dealership, especially an independent dealership, right? And then service writing in black and white. These are excerpts from the book that I had published. Gosh, it's over 10 years ago already. So I've got that stuff there. And I think about the people that I put into the system on the power sports membership side. We deal with some stuff like physical health. We deal with how to use the phone, all the fixed operation stuff, goal setting, how to understand a key performance indicator, how to select a key performance indicator, things like that. And all of these things put together, I feel really help a service writer or a service manager, absorb that leadership role, that idea of being a leader. This is an interesting time. So it's interesting to see what business is going to look like. What does virtual communication look like? I mean, I'm doing that with you guys right now through this video. But what does virtual communication look like from a service writer, service manager perspective? How can you guys leverage FaceTime on your phone? How can you guys leverage, Duo if you're on an Android phone, or you could use Google Text if you don't want people to know your real phone number. You could get a Google number and then port that into your phone, and then use text messaging and Duo with that number. And you can still communicate with customers in the way they want to be communicated with without giving up your personal contact information, right? So there's all kinds of ways to do this. But I think that in the short run, we're going to see a slight increase in demand for your business. And in the long run, I think it's going to be up to you. It's going to be, where did you put yourself on the leadership totem pole in relationship to others? How did you build relationship with your customers? How did you maintain relationship with your customers? And how comfortable are your customers in continuing to do business with you? When I finished up the call yesterday, I did the live call for this page. I was really, really clear Like, do I have a training site for service writers and service managers? Yes. Would it be fantastic if people all signed up for it and created revenue for me? Absolutely. You know, I'm not going to lie about that. I mean, yeah, I've got a product and I'd love to sell it, but genuinely from my heart, I want this page to be, and I don't care if like other training companies, I don't care if the Spader group wants to join this group and jump in here and talk about things. We all have a different focal point for our messages. Like, I'm different than Garage Composites. I'm different than Spader Group. Spader Group is different than Garage Composites. We've all got something that we focus on as a plus for you. And you need to figure out where your deficiencies are and what you want to fill in, you know, based on what each of these groups offer. But I'm making this video and I'm making continual virtual meetups available to the members of this page because I want this community to grow, and it's free, no commitment, no nonsense. Not going to try and sell you heavy on stuff. I want to see you guys succeed. I've been in the industry for over a decade, you know, working at the OEM level, and man, I want to see you guys succeed. I am free from the bonds of the OEM world for the time being. I no longer am associated with Suzuki, and those of you that have known me for any length of time know that I left Ducati back in 2016. So I have a lot of experience behind the scenes, and I'm not afraid to share stuff with you guys and help you find success in moving forward with your projects and your dealerships. I really want to see you guys knock it out of the park. And man, I tell you, it's so many times it comes down to basics. I walk into a dealership and there'll be ROs on the counter. And I'm like, you can't have ROs on the counter. You know, how many open ROs do you have? How many bikes are on the lot? I mean, that's one of the simple early questions I knock out of the park right away. Then I listen to some of the calls from the service writers, and I listen to the terminology and the phrasing and the things that are said. And I go, okay, well, let's tweak this and let's figure out how we can communicate better with the customer to try and lead to more sales, right? Because at the end of the day, you've got to sell parts and labor. I mean, you've got to move the product. And so it's about that type of communication. And, you know, inside the training site, we have a whole course on phone etiquette and how to use the phone as a sales tool. But I'm going to keep supporting this page, and I'm going to keep trying to grow this community so that we can work together and, you know, find some kind of common goal of advancement for our industry, because we can't continue on the path that we're on. I mean, you can see the stuff from Robert Pena on LinkedIn or with the IMS shows that he was doing. He's got his own podcast, right? He's the shift guy. Give a shift, GAS, right? Give a shift. And then of course there's Brian Croft with the Dealership Fix It podcast. Brian's, you know, a brilliant individual in his own right, and he's been reaching out to people in the industry. And you've got, you know, a handful of us that are committed to figuring out how we can leverage our talents and our time to increase the sales and productivity of our industry, which people love. They just think it's a pain in the butt to deal with us. And we've got to figure out how we're going to put some, you know, best practices to use that will make us less of a pain in the butt to deal with and more of a pleasure to buy from, and help our industry kind of have a little bit of a resurgence. All right. Have yourself a great one. I know that these times are rough. I know that everybody is kind of wondering, like, what in the hell is actually going on? But be strong, hold fast. If your business is still open, let everybody know your business is open, and then take that leadership role. And if you've got questions, problems, concerns, man, you can message me on the page. You can hit me up on the contact link on Manana No Mas. There are plenty of options to reach me. So I will talk to you later. Have yourself a good one. Bye-bye.